guys, it is April from Getting Hugo With It. Today I am going way back to November of 2018, looking at all of the books that I bought, and I need to choose one from my TBR for this November. Let's get into it. I got 12 books last November, which is much better than my previous hauls. I can really pack in a lot of books, I've realized, and I feel like 12 is decent. That said, the whole point of this whole series is to look at how much I'm bringing in and how much I'm actually reading. So I'm going to go through all of the books that I got last November and decide which one I want to put on my November TBR for this year. First up is a historical fiction book that is meaningful without me even having read it, and it's The Power of One. This book is following a young boy in South Africa. He is white and his name is PK, I believe. It is a growing up story about this little boy living in a time when I think apartheid is just beginning and World War II is also on the horizon basically. And it's about his life. And I remember watching this movie when I was a kid and really liking it and being impacted by it. I don't remember the movie very well anymore, but so there's The Power of One. There's also Half Broke Horses by Jeanette Walls. Now, Jeanette Walls wrote The Glass Castle, which blew me away. That is like a nonfiction memoir of her life growing up with two very strange parents. And I think Half Broke Horses is not a memoir. It's based on her grandmother, but it's like a fictionalized account of her grandmother's life. So that is very interesting to me. Next is a book that I was sent, and it's At the Wolf's Table. And this follows a woman who is forced to taste test Hitler's food before he eats it, which would be terrifying considering how many people wanted Hitler dead during World War II. And so she and a group of other women need to try out his food to see if it's poisoned before he eats it. So you're constantly terrified, I imagine. This Snow Child is next, and this one is a kind of sad one about a couple who are going through infertility. They have been trying for a baby for a very long time, and they live in Alaska, and one day they build this snowman, but it's a snow child, and the next day they see a little girl running through the woods and they believe it's their snow child come to life. So it's got magical realism in there, and also a very heartbreaking story that I can relate to. Next is Birdie. I don't really know much about Birdie. I know that this follows an Indigenous woman, and that's about all that I know, which is unfortunate. The Wolf Road, and this is about a girl who's brought up by this man in the woods, in the outback basically, and she is raised by this guy and then realizes as she's growing up that he is actually a murderer and that she might be next on his list, which sounds terrifying to me. And Sons is next, and this one follows a man whose friend dies, and when he's giving the eulogy for his friend, he realizes how wrong he's gone in his life, basically. He's this writer, he's a prolific writer, and he just has this realization, and so he is trying to make amends and connect with his sons again, and it is about him trying to rebuild that relationship. The French Girl is a thriller, and this is about a group of, I think, university students that are going to a really prolific university. I think it's Harvard or Oxford or something, and they rent this house for the summer and they go, and there is this girl next door who like joins them, and they meet her and they spend time with her in the summer, and I think she winds up dead. And years and years and years later, the case is reopened and they're looking at what actually happened to this French girl. Now, The Last Empress is unfortunately the sequel to a book. When I got this, I thought it was the like first book in a series, but I think the first book is like Empress Orchid or something, and then this one is The Last Empress, so I will not be reading this. Unfortunately, I still need to find the first book. The Death of Mrs. Westaway is a book that I have read. This is by Ruth Ware. I read it a couple of months ago now. It's more mystery than thriller. This is like really marketed as a thriller, and I definitely would say no, it's not. But it does follow a woman who is down on her luck financially. She is alone in the world as well. She reads tarot cards for a living. And she's not just down on her luck, but like she has loan sharks after her. One day she gets a letter in the mail that seems to answer all of her prayers, and it says, your grandmother died and you are inheriting like a vast fortune. And she's like, that's not my grandmother. It is not my grandmother. But she's in such a bad situation that she goes to the funeral. She goes to stay at this house that she may or may not be inheriting. And yeah, she regrets it pretty much immediately soon after she arrives. It is not all that it's cracked up to be at all. Rue is about a family who moved to Canada from Vietnam, and it is about their experience living in a Malaysian refugee camp, moving to Quebec, and it's a short little book and very interestingly written. Like the structure of it is interesting. And then last but not least is The Hate U Give. Everyone knows this one. It's such a huge book. Huge popular book here on YouTube. This is about a teenage girl who witnesses her best friend in all of the world be killed by a cop, and it is about her experience afterwards, and it's an important book, that's for sure. I've read quite a bit of YA lately though, so I think I'm going to not choose that one just because I've not had the best luck still. So those are all of the books that I got last November, and now I need to choose one. And truthfully, if I'm being honest, I chose the shortest of the bunch because I have been not in a reading slump, but I've been reading books that just aren't doing it for me, and I've not been really enjoying. So I'm kind of terrified. So I chose the smallest of the bunch, and that is Rue. And it really is interestingly written. It's also like, it is short in page number, page count. Page count is 141 pages. But then also, look how small. So I'm hoping that this is okay, and if it's not okay, I know that it's short. Guys, I'm going through a reading slump, I think. This is terrible. What in the world? Anyway, I would love to know if any of you guys read this book. I don't really hear about it on YouTube very much. I'm thinking that might be because it's Canadian. But if you read it, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. That's what I'm choosing for this month's round of revisiting my haul from last year. I hope that you guys are doing well. What are you guys planning on reading in November? I'd love to know, and I will chat with you soon. Bye!